Hi, everyone. Here we are back with our coaches, connecting with the coaches. And we are going to talk today about holidays with families that either have kids with RAD in the home currently, or maybe your child is in treatment this year or somewhere out of your home, or maybe they're even in their new home this year. And we've all been through this. We all know what this is like. And so we thought, let's get together and just have a little chat that other people can just sit in on and pick up your coffee and just imagine we're all sitting here as friends talking about what it's like having kids. I've got water, I don't drink coffee, but let's just talk about what it's like going through the holidays. And, we might even just need a big, deep breath for a minute because you know what holidays have always been. And maybe the last several years, your holidays have been a lot harder than you ever thought that they might be. So let's just talk about that a little bit. One of the most important things that I think we've all decided and discussed is that you really need to have some kind of a plan, because maybe holidays used to be laid back and easygoing. Maybe they never have. I don't know. Everybody's family is different. But if you're living with a child with reactive attachment disorder in your home right now, you need to make a plan. If your child is in treatment or a new home, you need to make a plan. So let's talk about what that looks like. What do you guys have to say about that?
Well, I just think that if this is your first, Christmas maybe without your rad child in the home, then make a plan for what that might look like. That would have been different than the previous years. Maybe the previous years were super hard. I'm assuming they were. And now that the child is out of the home, whether that's in a treatment center or in a new family, then think of something that you can do that might look completely different than you've ever done. Just to sort of set a new tradition, and just to sort of give yourselves a break, like a much needed break from just the chaos sometimes that holidays can be.
Right. Sometimes we want to just rest, and maybe we need a peaceful, restful a movie a night with hot chocolate and the kids all or maybe we need to go do things that we couldn't do before because of that situation. So either way, whatever feels like what is drawing you to it, make a plan for that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I totally forgot this. You know how trauma makes you forget? And anyway, the first several years after our son was placed in his new home, we actually went somewhere so we would be gone at Christmas because it was so hard being around our family and people didn't get it and we were judged and all of that stuff. We just didn't want to even be there. So it's a little bit late to be thinking about this, but it's not too late. Like if you just want to go somewhere for the weekend, find an Airbnb, find a friend that lives in another state. Just go somewhere that's not what you always used to do. I think that can really help. Ladies, what about people who have their children who have RAD in the home? What kinds of plans do they need to make?
Simple.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think about like all the Christmas parties that people maybe have to attend, right? Like different sides of the family, or maybe there's a party associated with your spouse's work or your work, or
Church.
maybe a church, yeah, a church gathering that you attend.
Yeah.
So think about what your plan is going to be for that. My best advice would be to have a bookend, right? A bookend, so that you say, well, we're going to be here for X amount of hours or X amount of time, but then we have this to go to. So you sort of have an escape plan, and then it doesn't become this extended, really long, thing that you have to endure.
Yep. And for people who aren't really good at having boundaries, like you have to. Like,
Mhm.
I'm
You have to
sorry.
learn.
This is when you have to learn, because you're going to run your family ragged and you're going to have raging kids and the other ones are going to be crying and nobody's going to have any fun. So you have to learn how to say, we can't do that this year, or we can come for an hour and a half, or we'll go, to this one for the meal and to this one for dessert. And please, you might have to even limit how many gifts they get, and because their sensory stuff just gets all riled up and they
Well,
can't
that,
do
and then
it.
all these parties have food, and our kids always had so much issues with
Sugar.
food,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so that was and food coloring, and just it went straight to their brains and made their life so hard, and therefore the rest of ours. So trying to figure out how to manage that too, like I think a good idea is to have if like we're at church and you have a friend who knows your situation, if you could just ask them to help you keep an eye on your kiddo so that they're not running with 10 cookies to the side room and gobbling all down, or if they're at whatever, so all those
Yeah.
situations, because that helps you be less hyper vigilant about it because somebody else is helping you, and maybe you'll be able to enjoy the time better, and maybe you'll be able to control it, but at the end of the day you probably won't. And
Yeah.
so that's a question, is like, I can't control the food intake here, and so that we don't pay for this for the next 3 days while this is going through his system. So what do I do? Do I get him a sitter? Do we go to this party at all? Like, there's options about like you said, about the boundaries around that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
And we want you to know that we and many of our clients have had to make these choices too. And it's not fun. It's not fun. You have to give up what you think and what you care about, what everybody thinks about you. Because, oh God, can you believe that mom? She won't let her kid do anything, and she never lets him eat anything, and they can't come to any of the fun, blah, blah, blah. What your family can deal with and what it's like to pay for it after. So we have to set these boundaries or the whole family pays. And
Right.
it does sound hard to get a sitter for one of your children, but you know what's going to happen if you take them, and you know what's going to happen if you don't take them. So,
And the thing is, most kids with true rad, they're fine. Like, they think it's special. Like, they don't think about it the way we think about it. They have anxiety being with us. It's not what we think. And so
right.
let them go to a friend's or
And
to
maybe they can have
grandma's.
popcorn instead of the
Mhm.
sugar, so there's a
Well, and
special treat, but it's not something that's going to wig them all out.
I think too that we have to think about everybody involved, right? We want everybody in the family to be having the best time that they can. So the focus is always on the rad kid, right? It always has been. And so what can we do to make it enjoyable for everyone? For those children that are along for the ride, right? No matter what rad decides to do. So think about, like, does that mean that a sitter would make it the best time for everyone, for the rad child and for the rest of the family? Or would just limiting your time, or would not going at all?
Mhm. Mhm.
Exactly.
Lots of
Yeah.
options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, thinking about if this is your first year or second year or third year where your child's in treatment or another treatment or a different facility, or they're in a new family, or you're waiting for a new family, all these things. If we're not recognizing that there's a lot of grief going on, it sneaks up on you and smacks you in the head over the holidays. And so we want to remind you that grief really doesn't care that it's Christmas or Thanksgiving, and it's going to show up at various times, and it's unpredictable. You don't know when it's going to hit. It may hit, in the middle of the Christmas service. It may hit as you're decorating the tree, and we've got some tips on that in just a minute. It may hit, when you've got music on, or there's a rage going, whatever is happening, grief shows up sometimes in the middle of holidays. And we've found that if we're not expecting it and anticipating it and planning for it and making a little bit of space for it, then it can really knock you off because it hits you weren't recognizing that it might hit. You thought you could get through without it hitting. Then it hits you upside the head, and then it takes a long time to recover. So if you know that grief is going to show up at some point over the holidays, like have a little talking to with yourself and your spouse even, and gosh, okay, I know that we're grieving, I know this is going to show up. Just be prepared that it's going to at some point, and then when it does, you can sit back and go, oh, here you are. Okay, I knew you were coming. I'm going to give you an hour. Let's go cry for a bit and then be done and move on. Otherwise, it can knock you off and you feel like it just ruined your entire Christmas, where it didn't. It just made an appearance and let you know that you're grieving. Don't forget. Oh, yes. How could I possibly forget? And then you can move on.
Yeah. I remember one topic that we talked about last year, and someone brought up was that figure out the top maybe 2 or 3 things that you'd like to do this holiday season, whether that's make Christmas cookies with your kids, or maybe ice skating downtown at the ice skating rink, or whatever that might be. Then at least you feel like if you've done those things throughout the holiday season with your kids, then you're fulfilled.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That's not a total wash. So pick a
Yes.
couple things that you really want to just do.
Prioritize.
Yeah.
Yes. I like that.
Amy,
Yeah.
why don't you share a little bit about what you were talking about preparing around stockings and ornaments?
So yes, my first Christmas. I love Christmas. I'm the kid. So I was so excited to get the party going for putting up the tree and stuff, and got everything out and came to her box, because I collect ornaments for all of my kids, so everybody has a box and a stocking and all those things. And so when I came to that, she'd been gone since August, and I hadn't thought about her at this time yet until I saw all of. I had made special ornaments for the Christmas before we brought her home. That was there. Special name, because it's spelled differently and all of that. It's not an American name, so it just was really. I wanted to keep them for her.
And then grief showed
put
up.
them aside. I should have put them aside. I wish that I had thought of it earlier, gone and set them aside, and then I could have had my grief moment without like really feeling like I had to stifle that for the rest of the kids.
Yeah.
Which that's always how we feel. It's like, oh gosh, this is not a good time. And so that's my
for those of you,
think about that early.
Yeah, get it. Think about that now, and before you guys decide to put up your tree and get out stockings, figure out what you want to do with those. If there's a child who is not at home this year, what do you do with them? Yeah. And talk to your spouse about it, make a plan. If they're in treatment and you're planning to have them come home, then maybe you still put them up. If they're gone, how do you talk to the kids about it? Because they all know.
Exactly.
So
I really wish that we would have talked to our kids more throughout this whole thing.
Yeah.
I really would like to go back and have conversations about, looking at their behaviors at the time and asking them, what do you think this is really about, and being able to support them through whatever this is for them, because they did want her. I mean, it was a loss for them.
And they're grieving their sibling. Absolutely. And the family we all thought we were going to have, and all of that. And Christmas and holidays are one of those times, you can kind of skate through parts of the year. It's hard when school starts. It's hard when, dances and graduations and all the things, but holidays happen every year. And every year it's all about family. And so it's a reminder, it can be a reminder of how you perceive your failings. It can be a reminder of what you thought your family was going to be and is not. And
it also can really impact your your extended family, right? We all have had extended family issues. So you're not only having grief about your nuclear family, but it's also your families of origin
Right.
where things are different and not better.
And people don't understand it, and they judge and they don't get it. And
It's so
that's why we escaped for several years. We just ignored Christmas at home for probably 6 years. And then finally we started staying around again, and we don't really spend it with extended family. We might see them at some point, but it's not really ever been the same. But we've built our own nuclear family back to where we're excited to be together and we're happy to be together. So
thank God.
um
Just know that that's out there in the future for those of us that are in the thick
Well,
of
I
it.
was just going
Right.
to say that, Amy. I was just going to say that same thing, that, as the year, we are 3 years out, it does get easier, year after year, as the years continue, it gets easier around the holidays.
because I think we're 13 years, I don't even know, 12 or 13 years out.
Yeah.
And I mean, it still comes up because we do have some contact with our previous son. And, it's always a matter of whether he's going to allow, and I know some people don't want to have anything to do. Ours was not violent, so it's a little bit different. It's just very manipulative. And every year, though, it's like, okay, do we get a gift? If so, is he going to destroy it? Because that's what happens a lot of times. So a lot of times we'll do a gift card and, just have to know that it's a gift. If he destroys it, okay, we gave it, and he doesn't have to use it, but he can if he wants. And that's just what we do. So, just thinking about that, the gift giving though, let's talk about that for a minute, because, first of all, many families have not much money available when they're parenting a child with RAD, because it's all spent on therapy or treatment or therapy for themselves or their marriage and, everybody else. And so there's not a whole lot left. I want to give just a quick little thought of something we did years ago. We started giving 3 gifts based on the wise men. And so our kids get 1 gold gift, 1 frankincense gift, and 1 myrrh gift. And our gold gift is something that they can't afford on their own, so it's a little bit more costly. The frankincense gift is something that is warm and cuddly, so it could be slippers or a coat or a hat or something to snuggle with, a blanket, something like that. And then the myrrh gift is something that helps them in their relationship with God. So it could be a Bible, it could be a devotional, it could be a movie, music, something like that, a journal. And those are the 3 gifts that our kids get each year. And what's interesting is I have a granddaughter now, and I've seen my daughter has carried on that tradition, and that's what they do in their family. And one of the reasons we started it was because when we went for extended family, our kids got so much stuff. And we found that the stuff that we would give our child, especially with RAD, they would either not open it or destroy it, or they'd open the wrapping, but not the gift. And so we just quit spending money on expensive things. So his gold gift would not be the cost of gold. A lot of times the frankincense one would be socks or a hoodie or something like that, because wear it, don't, it's fine.
Yeah.
And make sure that you're not attached to their response of whatever it is that they get, because if you put your happiness into whether they're happy with your gift, you're letting them have way too much control, and they can use that to manipulate you and make you have a miserable Christmas. So, however you have to do that, that's where grief shows up again. If we can take a moment and cry before they open them and know that it's just going to sting and just, have a nonchalant, whatever attitude, then you'll do better. And they'll do better, because then they don't have the pressure of feeling like they have to love something that, their RAD has flipped upside down, and they just can't receive it. because it's part of their disorder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Let's just talk real quick too about expectations versus reality, because sometimes, man, we put a whole year worth of stuff into what Christmas is supposed to be. And then when reality hits down here, all of this, the stuff in the middle, that's what we're grieving. We hoped it was going to be this, but it's actually this. So if we can go into the holidays knowing that it's probably going to be somewhere in here, you know, it's not going to be this. It probably won't be the worst. It
Mhm.
might be, I don't know. But if we can go into it with realistic expectations and, you know, with what both of you were saying about making the plans and having an escape and thinking about who you're spending it with and food and the gifts and all these kinds of things, if we can make a plan that lowers our expectations to the reality of where we're actually living right now. It
Right.
doesn't mean it's going to be this way for the rest of your life, because it won't. Every year is different. They grow. But if we can do that, then we can enjoy what we actually have.
Mhm.
Anybody have anything to offer on that?
Well, I just think that the holidays are so heightened for these kids with Brad to begin with. I mean, when I think back about every big event, even throughout the year, birthdays, you know, and holidays, it's like they sort of have this sixth sense, like, okay, something fun is coming up, and I'm going to do my best to try to destroy this, right?
Right, right.
So I think that going into it, knowing that and kind of being ahead of that, and then like just having more realistic, you know, outlook on it. Like this is probably not going to look like what I want it to look like, but does it have to look exactly like that? I think we're so wrapped up in what society makes the perfect
Commercials.
Christmas look like, and it doesn't have to look like that. It can be a lot simpler. It can be a lot quieter, you know. So really just trying to find those things. And I remember asking my other kids, like, what, you know, what's one thing out of this Christmas season that you'd really like to do? You know, one of them was make Christmas cookies, as that was one of their favorite traditions, you know. So maybe just incorporating the opinions of the other people.
Right. Yeah, and
So-
making that your top three or whatever, so that you know that you get them in and you've connected in a way that was
Yeah.
special for a child. I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. And for those of us who are Christian and just remembering that it's the birth of Jesus and all of this crazy, like without him, I would not have made it through any of this.
Yeah.
So find some quiet time, play some old Christmas carols that remind us what it's really about, not, you know,
Jingle Bell Rock.
yeah. I was trying to think of the grandma got run over by a reindeer. Great, I'm grandma now, so that's not fun. Anyway, what is Christmas really about? Spend some time with Jesus. He saves. Even today, he can save Christmas. He can save your heart. He can save your family through all of this. So it may not look the way you're hoping, but keep that in the forefront. And we wish you all a very happy Thanksgiving and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if you're needing some extra help, Jen and Amy and I are all here available to coach with you, and we'd love to meet you and spend some time with you. So reach on out to Carrie O'Toole Ministries if you need some extra help. Happy holidays.